Jimmy O. He danced the night in broad daylight, but Jimmy just didn't know. Jimmy O was born on a dark September night, born with a special something, but he lacked the gift of sight. Yes, Jimmy was blinded by his birth and knew not what anything looked, so everything he imagined, and he drew it into his book. A simple friend of his called Barty looked normal and plain, but in Jimmy's book he was transformed into a monster named Macabre. Jimmy O was quite happy, living in his life of wonder, till a dark, mischievous situation caused an equally mischievous blunder. And so we shall begin the tale, the ballad now half finished. I'll meet you on the other end when the tale has finally diminished.
The tale. Jimmy O found it strange. Strange that despite being blind, he still closed his eyes when he slept. He thought if all blind people did this, and whether it was because they all wanted to be normal, or like Jimmy believed, you can never be sure what creatures could fall into your eye.
Jimmy O had heard the word blind spot used often, but he interpreted a blind spot to be a large insect that hunts down blind people and flies into their eye, feeding on their rich darkness. He drew many blind spotters in his book. Jimmy O liked to draw, and although he didn't know it, they were very good drawings indeed. He would draw the world as he didn't see it, because that was all he could draw.
Jimmy O always wondered what the sensation of sight was like. He didn't know what light was. He didn't even know what colours were.
Jimmy O had a friend named Barty Hobbs. He would come over to Jimmy O's place and tell him things. Stories of his father, the famous explorer Dusky Hobbs. Barty Hobbs would tell Jimmy these stories, and because he was polite and kind, he would close his eyes in a courteous gesture towards Jimmy O.
Once he was stuck up a tree. Knowing that the ground was cursed, he knew that he could not come down. For hours he argued with the tree, asking it to move out of the cursed grounds area. But trees very rarely move. They are the laziest of all plants.
So how did he escape?
Why, by eating all of the tree's fruit. And this tree happened to be an every fruit tree. Every fruit grew on their branches. So Dusky had a splendid time eating all of his favourite fruits, and even a few obscure and rare ones that he had never seen before. Until suddenly, the tree piped up.
All right, I'll move you greedy little bugger. Just stop eating all my bloody fruit.
And my father was dropped right outside the forest, full as a fat man.
Jimmy laughed and laughed at the story. He enjoyed them very much.
To Jimmy O, Barty was not merely a kind and courteous friend. He also appeared to Jimmy O as something quite different, as a hairy, hunched monster named McCain. Of course, Jimmy O knew that his imagination was just speculation, and really did wonder what the world was like. But with people who have great desires, come others to sell such things.
One day, Jimmy O was walking home through a wooded pathway.
Ever wondered what the light is like?
Who are you?
It's overrated.
What do you want?
I want to propose a deal with you. When I was a boy, there was a solar eclipse. As the moon began to travel over the sun, I got too excited over the thought of seeing the phenomenon, and I foolishly looked up. My parents screamed for me not to, but I just wouldn't listen. You see, I looked up, and you know what I saw? I saw the sun, bright and red and luminous. You see, I was impatient. I couldn't wait to see the eclipse. I looked up too soon, and now all I see is the bloody light. Every day, every night, light, light, light. I crave your darkness, Jimmy-O. In return, I'll give you sight.
We've got a deal.
If only Jimmy-O had seen the man, he would have said no. But Jimmy-O did not say no. And so, Jimmy-O led the man to his house.
Let me sleep on your bed. If you can make me sleep, then our eyes will trade.
Jimmy-O helped the man onto the bed.
First, lay me on my front. I find I breathe better. Now, lay me on my side. Find I can think better. Now, lay me on my back. I find I dream better.
When Jimmy-O woke, he found that he had to close his curtains, for the morning light was hurting his eyes. As he closed them, he realized he had just felt what light was. And he flung the curtains back. He felt the morning beat down on his face, caressing his eyes. Jimmy-O dashed out at once. He wanted to see the world for what it was, for what he had always imagined it to be. And it wasn't at all what he thought. Jimmy-O found the world to be quite plain, grey, black. Walls didn't look like his walls, trees didn't look like his trees, even people. They were plain and awful and ugly. Jimmy-O was intensely disappointed by the world. When Jimmy-O returned, he tried to draw, but all his drawings looked real, no longer abstract. Jimmy-O had wished blind spots had come after him, but Jimmy-O no longer had any darkness, just a bright light. Jimmy-O searched and searched for the strange old man, but had never seen his face. It could have been anyone. Weeks went by, and Jimmy-O still felt disenchanted by the world around him, until one day, when his friend Barty Hobb had come to visit, did things change. As Jimmy-O sat listening to another tale of dusky Hobbs, he began to notice something on Barty's face. A tuft of hair, protruding tooth. Could it be? Jimmy-O wondered that Barty was in fact, on a certain day, the monster McCain. Jimmy-O became frightened, horrified of Barty's transformation.
Look, McCain, tell you a story.
Jimmy-O ran out of the house. He ran as fast as he could, but McCain was quick. He ran out of the street, and then out of the town. McCain chased him into the woods. swing caused Jimmy-O to fall, smash his head, and into the darkness once again. But Jimmy-O woke and saw still. But of course, his eyes were still playing tricks once again, and as his sight focused, he saw that McCain had not been slain, but instead his best friend, Barty Hobbs. McCain had never existed. Jimmy-O's resistance to reality had caused the death of his best friend.
Oh Jimmy-O, 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 ran home as fast as his legs would last with a healthy guilt in tow. And then and when he arrived home at 10, stuck between truth and doubt, he would cry tonight himself he'd fight, hoping no one would ever find out. But Jimmy-O finally found a way to free him from his lit tomb, a fierce reserve into the optical nerve, and all it took was a metal spoon. And so Jimmy, he shall never be surprised or hypnotized, for in a crimson glass of a billowing red mass, laces forsaken and cursed.